What is up, everyone? Welcome back. Whew. So we have a lot of topics to cover, but before that, we want to remind you guys that you can get your very own personal CLG coaching session. We're going to pick a winner from the donations, I think around 5:30. So there's still time to enter that if that's something that you're interested in. So
Cool. So I want to jump on a point that Dr. Ill brought up in chat, and it was something that I wanted to bring up. So thank you so much. Where he's talking about foods to eat at tournaments. So when we look at the different three classifications of macronutrients, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, they actually release energy at different times. So if a carb is the fastest burning energy, and it will release energy like this very quickly. You'll have an energy spike, and then the energy will trail off very quickly. So things like little sugars before a match, if you're running low on energy, very helpful. Proteins are slightly more delayed energy, but they also give somewhat instantaneous energy. So you want to have a mix of carbohydrates and proteins for instant energy, while fats burn energy very slowly throughout the day. So if you have a breakfast that's full with fatty foods, then you will have a slow release of energy throughout the day. So when it comes to our no decision breakfast, we've actually made some decisions about them, but we made them earlier in the day to have a good combination of carbohydrates, proteins, and especially fats that will burn throughout the day. So I wanted to bring that up before we get to our next portion, which is dealing with nerves. I'm sure you guys, anyone that's playing tournament has experienced tournament nerves before, and I'm sure that you guys have your own techniques to calm down, but we would like to share what we do to calm down. And I guess I should just keep going so I can help frame the way that we handle tournament nerves. So nerves can seem very fantastical and hard to pin down when you first start playing. But the three objective measurements that you can use for tournament nerves is your heart rate, your physical tension, and your mental arousal. So physical attention is like if you guys have ever been to the gym, when you're pushing up the heaviest weight that you can possibly push, your physical tension is probably like a 9 or a 10, right? Your entire body's engaged, and you're just trying to get that weight up as hard as you can. Uh, well, if you're playing soccer, if you're a soccer player, then your physical tension is probably a 4 because you don't want to be very tight on the field. You want to be loose and fluid and you want to be able to move the ball around freely. So when it comes to gaming, you don't want a physical tension of a 10. You want it more of a 4 or lower physical tension. And ways physical tension will creep up throughout your gaming sessions. Your hands will get tighter, your forearms will get tighter. I get a lot of tightness in my chest when I play, and it requires dealing with because if you just ignore it, then your physical tension will keep compounding as you play, which will lead to worse and worse execution. Mental arousal is just what it says it is. It is how aroused you are mentally while you play. So again, with the idea of like this power lifter, he just wants to get the weight up off of the ground. So he has a mental arousal of a 10. He just wants to rip the weight. He doesn't really have to think about it. But if you're playing melee, you don't want to be so mentally aroused that your mind becomes very focused. You want to maintain that soft focus. So you want a lower mental arousal, just like the physical tension. So with heart rate, physical tension, and mental arousal, it kind of gives you categories to chunk what you're feeling and recognize why you might be underperforming or have feelings of nervousness or anxiety. Uh, so going more into that, Zach, if you could take it away.
Sure.
Just a way that we deal with physical tension.
Yeah, so I think maybe like a year or maybe two ago, Bobby started making us do physical activity like at the tournament. He'd pull us aside and he'd be like, "All right, 20 jumping jacks." I'm like, "What?" Like right now? Like everyone's watching right now. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
and then
care.
Hugo thought
Get
it
it.
was a good moment to get Twitter impressions. So he's like, "Oh, look at these nerds," and he's like filming us, and we're like, "Dude, what are you talking about? I'm loosening
Look at
up
them
right now. Like
winning
I'm getting ready.
tournaments.
Yeah, and
Like
it,
what
and
are
it,
you roasting me for getting tournament ready? You're out of the tournament right now."
and it kind of sounds like counterintuitive. Like, why would I do physical activity to lower my heart rate? But actually, it actually works. It works really well because of how, at least how I was dealing with my tension. I was like holding it all in, and I just needed it to let it out, right? Somehow, it didn't matter how. And in doing so, whether it be push-ups or jumping jacks, I don't know. It allowed me to release that tension, which was really helpful. A couple other techniques that we use that I use a lot is just like trying to reground myself, right? Whether it be through body scan meditations, like trying to visualize where my tension is and then letting go of that, or warrior breathing, which is like really rapid breathing. And then also someone mentioned in the chat that I told them at Gods and Gatekeepers that a way to ground yourself again is just to think about your immediate environment, right? Like think about your feet touching the floor and what that feels like, or feeling the chair that you're sitting on, or if you have gum, like what it feels like in your mouth and how it tastes. These are all ways to bring yourself back to the present, away from the past or the future. So
Yeah, and I just want to jump in again because I am the one that taught them all this.
it's
But
true.
when it comes to mental arousal and physical tension, and heart rate, don't obsess over it. And don't be like, oh, I feel so tense. I'm probably like a 6 when I should be a 4. What you want to do is you want to find your range. The range of physical tension, mental arousal, and heart rate that you can perform within. And then you want to control your all those things to stay within your performance range. So it's not as simple as I should play as a 4 all the time on the physical tension scale. It's between a 4 and a 6, my execution doesn't degrade. So that's where I need to stay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. An interesting thing is between the difference between me and Kevin. I tend to be like kind of a slow starter, but I peak really quickly in my physical tension. Whereas Kevin, he actually did this experiment at his college where we tested each other's physical tension, and he was much more of a gradual performer, which was really interesting. And it definitely confirmed our hypothesis, huh?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, the little test that I ran, which had to get canceled because of COVID, it would measure certain things like we're using like sensors on like your traps and on your forearms and like measuring your posture and your breath and your heart rate, stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, like we all assumed that Zach was like more tense because that's kind of what we had talked about, but to see it like actually come through in numbers and on graphs and stuff, it was pretty sweet.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. So objectively, you can use these 3 elements to track your performance, and that's what we've been doing. And we have seen great success with it. Something that's cool is that Zach's heart rate, he can play anywhere between like a 98 and like a 121 without his execution messing up at all. Just because the adrenaline is pumping in him, and I think he plays better the higher his heart rate becomes.
Yeah, more adrenaline.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Do
Should
we
we
want to move on to expecting adversity?
yeah.
Oh,
Okay. It's kind of a new thing we've been talking about like in the
we love
past
it.
few months. Yeah.
You want to kick us off, Kev?
Do you want to introduce first the equation, Bobby?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so E plus R equals O, which is event plus response equals outcome. Uh, a lot of people are very outcome oriented. They want to win the tournament. They want to win this amount of sets. But the issue with only being results oriented is that you don't control the results. There are many things that happen. There's bracket luck, how your opponent is playing. There are many variables that you do not control as a competitor. And the fact of the matter is that only one person wins the tournament. So even the goats, the best players that are playing currently, they don't win every single tournament. So having only results and outcome based thinking is poor. Instead, what you want is you want to have self confidence. And let me define self confidence for you guys, because it's not, oh yeah, I'm gonna win. It's self efficacy. It's when I'm put in this situation, I know that I can execute. When it comes to these last stock situations, I'm confident in myself as a competitor to hold it together and be able to play to the best of my ability, which doesn't mean that I'm going to win. Because in this event plus response equals outcome, the only thing that you control is your response. You do not control the events of the game. You do not control the outcome of the game. The only thing that you can truly be confident in and control is your response to these events. And that will help create the outcome of the game. So, results based thinking, I think it's good to have goals, results based goals, uh, but they're not the end all be all. What you need is you need improvement goals. You need small baby steps. Like, okay, this tournament, I'm going to work on my platform tech chasing at this percent because I keep missing it. And those are the things you should be focusing on, not I am better because I went 3-1 instead of 2-1.
Yeah, and if I could anecdotally talk about that whole idea about response being the thing that you control, maybe like 4 years ago, I was really struggling to make a top 8 at a major, and a lot of it was really focused on outcome. I really wanted outcome, and I really wanted to change outcome, and I wasn't doing it in like a holistic way that was through response. And so it would constantly be like ninth place, ninth place, ninth place at these majors. And I was like, I really need to rethink this. And so my goal instead, when I went to Evo, which was the first top 8 major that I made, I said, at this tournament, when it comes to the qualifier, my goal isn't to win, even though I obviously want to win, but my goal is going to be, in the event that this happens, my response is going to be, to play it like normal and not try to pull out anything crazy just because I'm in the qualifier, and start playing like someone who's not me, and really just stick to my guns and do my best to like bring it out of myself and be composed. And regardless of if I had won that set, the response was as I had intended. And so focusing on that response instead led to the outcome that I desired. And, it doesn't always lead to the outcome you desire, but you can at least respond in the way that you want. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
One thing we've been practicing more this year is not only visualizing our success, but also visualizing the different adversities that could go wrong at a tournament, right? Especially with net play tournaments being more prevalent, right? It's not in your control whether the connection is good, or maybe your power is going to get shut off, right? But in practicing expecting these things, when they do happen, inevitably, because they will, we're not as tripped up by it, right? We've already expected it. We've already sort of experienced it in a way in our minds, so that when it actually happens, it's a lot less troubling.
Yeah, if you only visualize success and you're like, when I get out there, I'm going to hit my Falco Shine Pillar combos, and I'm going to kill him off one hit every single time. That's just what I'm going to do. When that doesn't happen, that is going to trip you up. So what you want is you want to expect adversity. You want to say, okay, I am expecting to get, maybe he SDIs my down air and I get grabbed. Like, I need to be ready to instantly slide off in those situations. Or like, there's 100 different obstacles in Melee, and for each matchup. So by visualizing only what goes right, you're not prepared for what goes wrong. So you need to expect and visualize for adversity. For when those moments do go wrong, you're ready for them. The best possible anecdote for expecting adversity is from Michael Phelps at the
Nice.
Beijing Olympics. So Michael Phelps, he visualizes adversity and he expects adversity. And I think it was in the butterfly. When he jumped into the water, his goggles shifted and fell off of his eyes. So water filled into his goggles and he couldn't see in the pool. And he set a world record in that race because he expected adversity. He expected, what if my goggles go off? I just need to keep swimming on instinct. And he won the gold medal because he expected adversity. While other swimmers might go like, you know what, coach, my goggles fell off. There's nothing I could do.
Yeah, a personal experience that just happened at the last Smash Summit was in my pools match against Plup. I think we disconnected, game 3 or game 2, I forget. And I was just like, all right, like let's run it. Like I didn't even bother me because we had already practiced, visualizing the adversity, and it just felt great to be able to just kind of brush it off without really taking a mental toll on my play.
And this all goes into this positive mental theory that's very prevalent in mindset coaching, where if you hold on to these negative things like I SD'd because of a lag, uh, then those things will they will compound. They will grow on top of each other. So whenever you hold on to this negative event, you're carrying more weight, mental weight on your back while you play. So by letting go of these sort of things and like understanding that yes, this is a possibility, I accept this, and now I'm pushing it away. And I'm allowing myself to continue forward. You are lightening your mental load while you compete.
Really quick before we move on, I also want to mention that in 10 minutes, the raffle, is it a raffle? The incentive for getting a coaching session with the 3 of us will be closing and a winner will be decided. So that was your last 10 minutes, guys.
Yeah. So if you guys want pinpoint coaching on what we think you guys could be doing better in and out of game, please join that raffle for charity.
Yeah, it's for charity.
Cool.
All right.
Next up. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we can tie the next point pretty well into response and outcome is having a balanced life will help your play be more balanced too, right? If there's something in your life that is troubling you a lot, it will inevitably be reflected in your play. And I've played so many tournaments where I had something else on my mind and I was not able to perform at my peak because I was too busy thinking about whatever else was going on outside the game, right? So it's really important that if you're competing, especially like at a top level, that you have balance not only in the game but outside the game too.
Yeah, and one reason why it's so important is that it allows you to compartmentalize different parts of your life and the game. Uh, if Smash is your only indicator of self-worth or value as a person or as a human being, then when things go wrong, they go catastrophically wrong because that's your whole life. That's everything that you're working towards. So my father, who was a great throwing and discus coach, he taught me a long time ago that life is a three-legged stool. And if there's only one leg of the stool that you focus on that grows and the stool grows taller, then your stool of life will topple over. Uh, because if things are going poorly in Smash and that's the only thing that you have, then your life will topple over. But if you have like good relationships, you have a career, or you have creative outlets, artistry, and then you also have Smash. If one of these elements isn't going right, you can lean on another leg of the stool, and you are able to compartmentalize. Bad things are happening with your parents or with your significant other. You can compartmentalize that by using your artistry or your career or what have you, and your Smash play.
hmm It's really easy to lead to burnout too if your Smash, tying into the three-legged stool, if your Smash leg is way larger, um, and for whatever reason you're not performing very well, maybe you're not getting the outcomes that you want, right? Um, it will very likely lead to burnout. And again, like the way that we've dealt with burnout in the past has been to make sure that the other areas of our life are satiated enough to allow us to kind of like dial back the Smash a little bit and focus on our personal relationships or school or what have you, right? Um, and then that way we can kind of come back to the game a little bit more refreshed and a little bit uh, less. I mean, I know personally I've struggled with like what Bobby was saying, equating my results to like my self-value. And
Same.
but after and every day it's a struggle, right? Like it's hard not to, as a competitor, it's hard not to, you put so much time into this game, it's hard not to be attached to the results. But
Yeah.
ultimately all we can control is the response to the event, right? We can't control the outcome, we can't control the event. We can only control how we respond to the event.
Yeah.
Do we have enough time to talk about work, play, pray, and rest, Bobby?
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely, Kevin.
Okay,
You should
cool.
do it.
I'll introduce this idea. So we're talking about balancing our life, and if you can put it into 4 different categories, like we were talking about compartmentalizing it, we have work, play, pray, and rest. So work, in this case, work for us would be grinding out for these tournaments, and um, play is just how we enjoy this work. So of course there's always a time for grinding, but there's also time to like enjoy yourself and
Play World of
have fun
Warcraft.
and play around the world or something. Now pray, which was the one that I had the hardest time grasping initially, is your like personal life and the things that you enjoy doing. So for instance, I love music, and if I don't listen to like at least 2 albums in a week, I feel like I'm not a real human. So let's rest. And rest. Work, play, pray, rest. Yes.
And
And
rest
rest is
is just
classic.
actual rest.
Yeah. Just resting. And sometimes rest is hard for people. But anyways, in the context of, let's say Zach and I are ramping up for the summer of Smash and we've got to get ready for Evo. And so Evo comes, and so our work gets ramped up like crazy, and we're dialing the work up to 11. We need to have a plan for when we're done with that tournament to also ramp up our rest and to also ramp up our personal time. And maybe that's also the time that we ramp up our play. And, all 4 of these things don't need to happen all at once, but you need to have a plan for, okay, I'm going to be grinding these next like 3 weeks of my life, and these are going to be 6-hour days. So when I'm done with this, I need a real break. Like, not just like sitting around and kind of thinking about Smash and being like, oh man, I wish I could have done better, but I'm watching TV now, so I'm resting. Like, real rest needs to come into play where, you have your clarity and you're free of all these thoughts, and, they all just play into each other.
They need to scale with one another appropriately. And I'd really like your point of like, uh, play and rest is not play and rest if you're like in the back of your mind, you're still thinking about Smash, you're still thinking about Melee. It When it is time to rest, it is time to rest. You need to be able to compartmentalize that part of your life and get actual rest and say, trust yourself and say, you know what, I could pick back up on this tomorrow when it's time to work again. And just on that pray, the coach that I stole this from, because all of coaching is just stealing good information. He is a very Catholic man. But pray can be anything that is about healing yourself and spending time with yourself, doing the things that like mindfulness. It can be meditation, it can be walks outside, listening to music, but it is servicing your own spirituality and your own self. uh, it doesn't have to be praying to God, because I believe that praying is just kind of a form of mindfulness. uh, yeah. And with that point of, you don't want to be thinking about melee the entire time that you're playing. You also don't want to go on these benders, right? Where it's like you work super hard and then you go on this play bender where you don't rest, you stay up all night playing this game, and like you wake up in the morning, you don't feed yourself, and you just keep playing the game because you don't want to have to recover from your recovery. You want to
Yeah.
recover. You don't want to have to recover from your recovery. You don't want to treat yourself like shit and be like, okay, that's recovery. You want to actually rest. Okay.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a great point. I've done that so many times
Same.
where I message Bobby. I'm like, oh man, I don't know what's wrong. Like, and he's like, well, have you taken care of your daily needs? And I'm like, no.
Okay. I think this is like a perfect segue into daily needs and self care.
Yeah.
So, Zach, do you want to talk a little bit about daily needs?
Sure. So daily needs, I think it's a really interesting concept, especially now, like during COVID era, where it's pretty hard to meet them, but super necessary, if not more necessary than before. Daily needs is just what you need to do on a day-to-day basis to have a baseline good day, right? For me, this includes like eating 3 meals, brushing my teeth twice a day, um, getting some sunlight, getting some exercise, like very simple, basic human needs that I know that I need to do every single day. And if I hit all of these points, then I'm setting myself up to have a good day. Is essentially the idea.
Mm-hmm. I believe in this theory of Buddhism that I'm going to butcher the quote, but that the suffering is constant in life, and that the opposite of suffering is not happiness, but delusion. It's the delusion that you're always going to be happy in life, and you don't treat this happiness as a fleeting moment that's there for you to enjoy, which is very nihilistic and sad. But it I like to see happiness as this line up here and suffering as this line down here. Uh, and in our daily life, we're normally somewhere within these two lines. And something bad will happen, we can dip into depressed. We watch a fun YouTube video, we momentarily dip into happiness. But it's like a wave graph; we're going up and down the entire time. And with COVID, I think our general base of happiness it's lower. It's towards depression because we can't go outside and meet up with friends and be impulsive and do all these sorts of things. So daily needs becomes even more important in this era of COVID, where self-care is just astronomically important, because you need to know if you're dipping into these depressive episodes every single day. You might start thinking, like, well, maybe I'm unstable, or maybe like uh, maybe I need to take extreme measures, when the answer could just be, you know what, you haven't drank enough water today. You didn't get enough sleep. You haven't exercised or gone outside and gone sunlight. You haven't really taken care of your daily needs. So, and once you do take care of them, that little line in the middle, it just raises a little bit higher. And it's easier for you to have moments of happiness and stave off depression. So I think self-care is so important, especially with daily needs.
Yeah.
Uh,
Identifying your outlets, very
mhm.
important. Super important.
Yeah, I I was having a very hard time during COVID because I was taking on so much work with CLG and doing all this coaching stuff. And then at the end of the day, I would grind Melee or grind Counter Strike, extremely competitive games. Uh, and I was unhappy because at the end of my day of work, I would add on more work. So for me, it took playing a bunch of pinball, digital pinball, Pinball FX3 free on Steam, to feel that play and to feel that happiness. So instead of working my buns off into working my buns off, I had me time and I had this non-competitive venture. I started learning the piano, which is learning a new skill. It's a non-competitive venture. Uh, yeah.
How do people figure out their daily needs? Like, how can people go about figuring them out?
So I think that there are like physical daily needs. I would love to like just link. I wish I could bring my daily needs up, but I should have talked to Card and Save State a long time ago about that. But I think everyone needs water, everyone needs food and exercise. And me personally, I'm kind of introverted, so I need a lot of alone time. And I need time listening to music and doing meditation, you know? It's just like your performance dominoes. You set them up through experience, but the best way that I think you can do it is leave a Google Doc or a piece of paper open. Write down your most basic human daily needs: food, water, sleep. How much sleep do you need? I need 8 to 9 hours. Some people only need 6 to 7. Uh, and then throughout your day and throughout this week, tack on more and more needs as you figure them out and you realize what makes you happy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Yeah.
Cool. Well, should we go into Q&A now,
We
or
have 15 minutes left.
We have 15
So,
minutes left. All right.
yeah.
We still there's still a little bit more that I want to talk about.
Okay.
Also, I want to I guess no, never mind. So do we want to talk about overcoming plateaus real quick?
sure? Yeah, we can hit it real quick and then hit a Q&A.
Video wants me to tell you that your mustache is out of this world fire, and you have.
Mwah, mwah. Love you, Megas.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's take it away.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, I'm sure you guys have all experienced having a plateau in Melee or in some fighting game before, right? And it can be really frustrating. Personally, I think there are a lot of ways you can overcome this, but I really like having 3 different skill levels to play against of people, right? So you have your people who are lower skill level than you that you can kind of experiment with ease and try new things. Then you have the people who are at your level or maybe a little bit above who can push you, and it can be like a competitive, relationship. And then there are people who just shit on you, and they're the ones who show you the new limits to the game, right? And I think by applying all 3 of these different skill levels, or practicing with all 3 of these different skill levels, is a really good way to break out of your plateau or to break into new heights.
Yeah, and on that, those 3 different levels of opponents that you have access to yourself, that can also play into the way that like you do a VOD review. So let's say I'm constantly, messing up this one aspect of the matchup, and I watch myself and say, "Wow, that's really a problem. I wonder what I should do." Go throw up a Zane video or some shit, and then I'm like, "Oh, this is what he does. This is interesting. Now let me take this concept where I'm struggling and I see him succeeding, and let me apply it to this lowest level opponent. Get a little more comfortable applying it to the lowest level opponent, and you're like, okay, this is starting to work." You play against someone who's at your level after being familiar with it, and you're like, wow, this is actually still working. This is really good, and maybe I can throw in a little bit of this, throw in a little bit of that. You take it to the top level, and like, let's say only half of it is working, and you're like, okay, wow, so this is like the fact checker. So this is how I know that it's not just going to be as free as how it was here. And I'll revise it, and I'll take it back up the ladder, and we'll run it again.
Mm-hmm. And different options could work at different levels, right? Because I think a lot of it is like putting someone in a situation, and depending on their level, they respond to it differently, right? And as you go up these different levels, you'll see more new responses from these situations, which is pretty awesome. I also think like something that's really important in overcoming a plateau is having a solid practice partner, because you again, you develop this like competitive relationship. For me, it was Kevin and Dewan. Kevin and Dewan were I have to beat them. Like I have to be better than them. And I think all three of us, like we all kind of felt that, and it totally accelerated our growth, because there was always someone we were looking to be better than, or to be able to beat them today, So
Yeah. And when it comes to what options you should be practicing, like what options you should be adding into your gameplay, uh, fundamentals trump everything. When it comes down to it, having better fundamentals, and you can watch the 4 fundamentals of melee video on the CL Gaming channel, uh, but having better fundamentals than your opponent will always be more important than being able to multi-shine 4 times into a grab. Uh, just having better neutral, punish, defense, edge guard, and working on those broad strokes over and over and over and over and over and over and over again is more important than these very niche applications of situations. Uh, the thing is about fundamentals is that you need to constantly relearn them and re-ingrain them, because once you create a habit, you autopilot that habit, and that habit actually slowly degrades over time. So you get worse and worse and worse at doing that habit that you've created for yourself, unless you practice it deliberately, because you're not giving your if you don't practice it deliberately, you're not setting up feedback so that that habit slowly degrades and becomes worse without feedback on whether or not you're doing this habit correctly. So it takes re-reviewing these very basic aspects of the game every single year in melee, and it's all about little and often over the long haul. So if it's important, you want to do it every day. And trust me, top level players, they're playing melee pretty much every single day. 1 day off for rest, but that is rest so that they can come back in and hit the melee hard. Which isn't to say burn out your life. Use all these tools that we've given you to balance your life, uh, but do it every day. Uh, play little and often, and plan for your career to be a long and illustrious career. Don't plan to be the best player in the world next year. Plan to be the best player in the world 2 or 3 years from now, probably even longer.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
Cool.
awesome.
Boom! We nailed this, boys.
Double
So
high
should
five.
we open it up to Q&A right now?
Yeah, I would love to open up to Q&A.
So yeah, we have the chat open and we can see your questions. So go ahead. If you ask a question, if you could just at the three of us, it would make it easier for us to see. So if you had any questions relative to anything that we mentioned, that would be the most pertinent. But of course, we'll answer whatever.
Mhm. 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 Mhm.
Okay, so yeah, we already have a good question from Firepuff12. Asking the question: how do you get yourself back into melee if you have a period when you don't feel like playing for a month or two, but you do love the game and want to get good? It's a little nuanced one, huh? I would say there's no rush, first of all. So I don't think
Yeah.
that you should be getting back into it with the expectation I need to rush back to where I was, 2 months ago, and I need to do this in this amount of time because it's super strict, and you don't want to have a super rigid plan. You love the game. That's undeniable, and the game will always be there. So you should be able to take it slow at your pace and work your way back, and try to rid yourself of like having lofty expectations about where you should be.
Yeah, I also think that if you are having this period where you don't feel like playing, you shouldn't, halfway in, halfway out it, where you're like, okay, I guess I'll play because I should, but at the same time, I want to take a break. You should set up, okay, I'm going to have this next 2 weeks where I do not play melee. and I just fully focus on recovery.
I don't
And
think
like
about melee. I don't
Mhm,
talk about
mhm.
melee. You just focus on whatever
Yeah.
you want.
I don't
Right?
think about like, oh man, I'm getting worse in this time. You just completely put it off to the side. And you
Cleanse.
will, yeah, you will
Cleanse.
not believe what brighter eyes you can come back to the game with. So instead of being halfway in, halfway out, commit yourself to recovery.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Uh,
Dude, I'm so happy to everyone talking about daily needs and just balancing their life. Dude, you guys are all awesome.
We
ex-
have a question here from Matt.Zeb, actually, tagging the three of us. How do you separate yourself from your gameplay outcomes? Might be if you covered this earlier. We kind of covered it earlier, but do any of you guys
Yeah,
want to speak on that?
I would say watch the VOD, Matt. Watch the VOD.
yeah, just to summarize real quick, E plus O or E
E
plus
plus
R
R
equals
equals
O.
O. Event plus response equals outcome.
Yeah.
Studebaker Hoke, he says, what helps you maintain your drive the most? I would say that being passionate about a game is incredibly important. Like all the greats have passion, right? But passion, motivation is a feeling. It's an emotion and it's fleeting. What actually helps you maintain drive and get up and work every single day is dedication and commitment and planning and scheduling out time and going through the motions every single day. Motivate you can't just play when you feel motivated. But at the same time, know that you are burning mental energy by, dedicating yourself to play. So you also need recovery and play and pray and all that good stuff.
Which is also in the VOD if you guys missed it. Here's a really good one. I think this is one that can speak to the newer player as well. This is from Zeta Slow Show, who says, "How do I cope with failure? I've never fully committed myself to the process of getting better. I think a part of me is afraid of trying my best and failing."
Yeah, I think there's a mentality switch there that needs to occur because failing is a good thing. Like failing is great because we learn the most when we fail and we grow the most from our failures. So
E-
yeah, go for it.
Everyone kind of memes it, but I don't lose, I learn. Like everyone kind of memes it, but it's really true that you do learn from every loss. And I really like how you say you don't want to open your heart up to trying and failing because that's really what's going on. Melee is too hard to half-ass it. Everyone wanted to pretend back in the old days that they weren't trying during Melee because they were really, really trying. Melee is so hard that you have to open yourself up to it. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to play the way that you want to play because you need to fail and you need
And
to fail to improve, and it's a part of everything,
the
failure.
last thing is maybe you want to define what failing is, because a lot of times losing isn't failing, especially, if you go round one and you fight Mango and you lose. Round two, maybe, I don't know, King shows up late to his pool and you have to fight King in losers bracket and you just went 0-2. Can you really call that failing if you went 0-2 playing against like two amazing players? You already went out there to like take a chance, be a part of this tournament, and you went out there, showed up, and you played your matches. So like I don't think you should call that failure. It's a bit of an extreme, but I think losing should not always and should rarely equal failure.
Yeah, and to add on to what Kevin's saying, not only defining what failure is, but also defining what success is too. Because success, again, it's not about the outcome, right? It's not about whether you win or lose. It's about how you respond to the event, and that the outcome is just it's gonna happen. You have no control over it. You can only control what you can control.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I just want to say really quick, DC Tomb, if you have Twitter, message me on Twitter because I would love to go into this with you, and I would love to give significant time to your question.
Yeah, and that goes for all of us. If you guys would like to send us a question, Twitter would be the best way. We only have 3 more minutes, so let's try to get to 2 more questions. What do you guys say?
Pump them out.
Okay. Let's see. If you guys see a good one, let me know. By the way, I'm reading through them. Oh, here's a good one from Stiff Tacos saying, "How do I know how to balance unranked and Uncle Punch? All I want to play is unranked, but I should grind some tech skill."
Sorry, one more time, Kev.
The question is, how do I know how to balance unranked and Uncle Punch? All I want to play is unranked, but I should grind some tech.
Yeah, you should totally grind tech skill.
Look, I always tell people who come to my stream, 20 minutes a day. 20 minutes a day is all you need for warm-up. You know, there's a lot of good warm-up routines. I know Leffen has some, KJH has some. I
have one too.
Yeah, Kevin has some. If you just build your own practice routine and do it every time before you play for about 20 minutes, that's all you need, right? And then you can go play whatever. And personally, what I like to do is like I do my little practice routine, I play for a little bit, and then I notice like, oh, hey, I'm not doing this back air off the ledge low enough. Like, so then I go back, practice that for like a minute or two, go back and play some more. Or maybe like my ledge dashes are a little sloppy, then I go back, do some more ledge dash practice. You know, it's like a constant adjustment.
But you should always be doing solo practice before playing real games. I also firmly believe in cooldowns, which is, you know, people, NBA players don't shoot free throws when they're fresh. They shoot them when they're tired. So it's more important that you are technically proficient when you are tired than when you are fresh. So 20 minutes at the start, 10 minutes at the back of your session, you will be molto bene.
Yeah.
Just reserve that mental bandwidth for the last 10 seconds or last 10 minutes, because you don't want to be like completely over it and be like, okay, fine, I'll grind this out, and you know it's gonna go.
And not actually put mental and deliberate focus.
I think we got time for one more, and if we don't, well, production team can be upset at us. So,
Simba has a good question.
Okay, go for it, Zach.
Oh, so Simba asks, maybe you covered it already, but how do you measure progress right now where you're not going to tournaments playing the same people day after day? How do we measure progress?
Well, I mean, right now we have been just dedicating ourselves to the Falco matchup for Zach and the Sheik matchup for Kevin. And one of the objective measurements that we use is opening per kill. But when you are so laser focused on one single matchup, I think it's easy to see the progress. You look at players who are better at the matchup, you write out what they do very, very well, and you try to add that into your own gameplay, or you take parts of that from their neutral punish defense edge guard, and you want to emulate that within your gameplay, or you want to be able to add it. So when you're playing against lower level players, you try to do against lower level players, and then you are able to hit it, and then there you go, that's progress. If you can hit mid-level players, then that's progress. Then finally, when you can consistently hit it at tournament level players, that's progress.
Absolutely.
Baby steps, one step at a time, right?
Yeah, definitely. And you know, also, even if you don't hit it every single time, that doesn't mean you're not progressing. You know, like you don't need to tag on like a 100% consistency thing. Like a lot of the top players in Melee don't even hit 100% of their L cancels when it comes to
There's no such thing as the 100% consistency. I'm gonna look up the highest free throw percentage of all time. It's Stephen Curry with
92.
90, yeah. 92% or 90%. 90%.
Oh.
So oh no, we have not. So
okay, I know who the winner is, and I think we've actually all met him, which is interesting, but maybe it's a shared tag that I don't know about. But the winner of the CLG private tutor lesson for charity is going to go to Wasabi with 2 S's. So congratulations, Wasabi. You have won. We'll talk to you soon. Congratulations. thank you everyone for donating as well.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. It seems like our segment really went off well. If you guys have any additional questions, please hit up on Twitter and different social media outlets. And yeah, thank you guys so much for supporting Melee. Save Smash, free Melee, forget Nintendo.
And really quick, where can these people find you guys online?
At SFAT on Twitter and SFAT17 on
At
Twitch.
youtube.com, and then you search for Fundamentals of Melee on the CLG gaming channel. And you like that, and then I will appear on your computer screen.
You can follow me on Twitter at CLG_PewPewU. One last time, I would also really like to urge you guys to check out Bobby's video, which again is on the CLG Twitter, and also to check out my video, which will be on my Twitter, my YouTube, etc., etc. Thank you guys for having us.
Yeah.
Peace.
Peace out, guys.